Hi guys, welcome back to NonnyPlus. I am Stanley Ikemefuna, and today we'll be learning one of the most important ideas in programming, which is the if statement. That's the if statement in C Sharp. In case you have not started watching my videos, please kindly go to my part 1 series and watch all my videos because we just started our part 2 series last week and this is the second video. So today I'll be talking more on if statements in C Sharp. So this is where your code start making decisions. So what is an if statement in C Sharp? An if statement in C Sharp is where your code start making decision, just like you do in real life. Like an if statement allow your program to check a condition, and after checking that condition, it decide what to do next. That is simple definition of an if statement. It allows your code or allow your program to check a particular condition, and after checking the condition, it decide what to do next. So the action follows after the condition has been checked. There's an action that follows. Now the computer is going to decide whether it will do the action. So this is called an if statement. So just think of it like this. If it is raining, what are you going to do? Is it raining? Is it true or false? If it's true, take an umbrella. So it has checked this condition if it is raining. If the condition is true, you are advised to take an umbrella. That is what the action, the decision that the computer will do. Or if you are hungry to check is it true or false. If the person is hungry, please eat your food. Or if your phone battery is low, true or false, your phone battery low, after checking that condition, if that condition is true, please charge your phone. So that charge your phone is like the action, a decision after checking that condition. So your computer also needs to make decision, and that is exactly what if statement help us to do. So let's dive into C Sharp. Let's dive into Visual Studio and write some code. How if statement works. I'll just give you a simple if statement code. So let's go into our C Sharp environment. So let me take this thing off. Okay, so these are C Sharp environments. Let me see whether we have anyone. Let me uncomment all this one. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so let's go. We have an integer of age is equals to 18. Integer age is equals to 18. So an if statement, if you want to do an if statement, you type your IE brackets, age is greater than or equals to 18. Then you open your curly braces, this and this. So this is a simple if statement. This is how to represent an if statement in your Visual Studio if you are using your C Sharp as your coding language. So we have if age is greater than or equals to 80. So after checking this condition, you can see on line 271 to check if this age is greater than or equals to 18. Remember we declare age as 18. So it will now check if this age is it greater than or equals to 18. Age already is already 18. So 18 is equals to 18. So the first condition to check is on line 271. That condition is true. So after checking that condition, to come inside that curly braces and print console dot write line, type your CW to now say you can write anything you want to write. So you can say you an adult. This is a very simple if statement. So if I run this application, what is going to show on the screen is you an adult. So this is an if statement. To first check the condition, 271. If the condition is true, it will now run, take the decision and print whatever is inside this curly braces from 272 to 271 4. So you can write any statement you want to write here. So this like checking the condition first. Then if the condition is true, to now decide what to print. So let's go further again. So we have um, the second line. So if the age is not equals to 18 or is not greater than 18, it will just keep this method or this action in 273 and just exit the code. So the first check Like for instance, if you are trying to register for maybe you're trying to register for your voters registration, so you are trying to apply. So you now got to a point where they say, please enter your age. Maybe you enter your age as 20 or you enter your age as 18. So the computer will now check the condition. So you now take this person's age is 20 years. But what I'm accepting is 18 for you to pass, for you to be eligible to vote. So it now check if this age that the person enter, 20, is it greater than 18 or equals to 18? If it's equals to 18, let's change this one to 20. If it's equals to 20, I mean, if it's equals to or greater than 18. So what we printed here is you are eligible to vote. Oh, what am I even typing? You're eligible to vote. So it has checked this condition and find out that this condition is greater than 18. So it will now come here and print. If, for instance, I do something like this, 12. If I do 12 to check here, is 12 greater than 18 or less or equals to 18? No. Since 12 is not greater than 18, so it will not even come here to just exit the person from the application. So the condition age is checked. If it's true, the message is displayed. If it's for false, C sharp simply skip it. So let's try to run this application. Let's see whether this you are eligible to vote will print out. So I'm going to run this application. This is like a simple if statement. So let's check. Um, Running the application. So you can say nothing was printed here. So press any key to close the application because this condition is false. But if I put 20 here and run this application, you see that to print out this message on 273 that you are eligible to vote. So you can see you are eligible to vote. So this is like a simple if statement. So you can have a lot of if statements. Like for instance, we can say int money is equals to 500, 500, and we have an int price is equals to 300. So you now put your if statements. If money is greater than or equals to price to print out this thing. So we are checking like you are saying like checking like two variables now, checking like two statements. So we have first of all declared on 276 an integer of money 500. That is the money you have is 500. Then we come on 277. You now declare another integer. The price of this item is 300 naira. So on 279, to now check the condition. If this money is greater than or equals to price. So you can see 500 is greater than price. Since 500 is greater than price, to come here and just print out, you can buy this item. So if I run this application, you see exactly this message that you can buy this item can see exactly you can buy the item. But if I mistakenly put 200 here to check the condition, this condition is false already on 279. So it will not even print out this message because the person is not eligible to buy this particular item. So you can see the message was not printed. So this is very simple. So this is just like a real example of what um, if statement. So let's go. So we have another statement called the X statement. After the if statement, we have another statement called the else statement. So what if you want the program to do something else when the condition is false? So remember, if this condition is false, it doesn't print anything. It just exits the application. But what if you want the computer to to do something else when that condition is false? What if you want? Then that's how else statement comes in. So if statement, if the condition is true, print what is in if statement. There's another statement called the else statement. So if the condition on the if statement is false, then come to this else statement and print whatever the statement is. So I'll just give you an example of how this else statement works. Let me close. I can also use this. Try to. Okay, let me uncomment all this one. So let's go to the else statement. So we are using an else statement now. Else statement. So what do we have on this else statement? So let's go. So we have int temperature is equals to 25. Then you come here. Temperature is equals to 25. You now put this if statement. If temperature temperature is greater than 30, then put this the statement that it will print out. Let's say CW. So it will print out heat. It is it is hot day today. Hot today, or it is hot today. Then we now go to the else statement. So the else statement to now print out CW. What will now be here now? The weather is normal. So this is an example of using an else statement. So, like I said, an if statement, you can see we declare an integer of temperature 25. So this on 276, you now check if this temperature is greater than 30. So you can see 25 is not greater than 30. So it will now print out this statement on 278. Instead, it will come here. Since this one is false already, it will just come here and print whatever this condition is instead of skipping the application. So after checking this condition on 276, if it's false, to come here and print the weather is normal. But if it is true, to come here and print it is hot day. So this is an else statement. Let us dive into a real life example. So like for instance, if you're trying to log in, if your password is correct, please log in. Remember, there's a condition that will check if the password you are entering is the same thing with the password that is stored in the system to check if it is correct. They use an if statement to check. If it is correct, you can log in. Then they now use an else statement. If it's not correct, to show you wrong password, to show to the user that this password is wrong. So, like, they are checking the condition. If that first condition is false, using an if statement, so you can use an else statement to print the false condition. So that is what this particular thing is all about. Checking the first condition, the if statement. If the first condition is false, they can now print the statement in the else. The statement that is the print. Yeah, print the the statement in the else block. So you can see, for example, okay, let me give you another example. So we have a string. Let me uncomment all this. So we have a string password is equals to pass 1234. This is your password that you have maybe in your bank. This is your password you have in your bank or anywhere. So we have an if statement that will check if password is equals to password 1234. So you can see, I'm sorry, using the drawings. What's your password? So this is a very simple example of using an if and else statement. On line 285, there's a password that we set. String password equals to pass 1234 assigned to this account for this customer. So on line 286, it will now check if this password that the customer enter, maybe the customer entered pass 1234. To now check if this password is equals to that, if this password that is stored that's assigned to this account is equals to the password that the customer entered when he was logging in into his app. If it's equals to the password, so this statement will now print out console the right line access granted. But if it's not equals to print access denied. So let's check. So this password pass 1234 is equals to this password that the customer has. So let's run it. Let's see what it prints out. Whether it's access granted or access denied. So this is a typical example of using an if statement and also an else statement. So they call it if and else statement. If and else statement. So if you want to check other condition, if that if statement is true, false, so you can do your so we have a access granted because this condition is true. So let's not tweak this a little. So let's put 6. Let's see whether it will still show access granted or access denial. So let's run this thing and see. If I run this application, to see that it will show me access denied because the password that you entered is not the same thing password tied to that particular account. Oh, why wasting my time? That's for sure. So you can see access denied because the password I enter is not the same thing with what is assigned to that account. So that's why it's very important to use your if statement and also use your else statement to print, use your else statement to ensure the computer do something else when the condition is false. So another one we have here is an else if statement. So I've talked about if statement, I've talked about else statement. So now I'm going to talk about what else else if statement. Another statement we have or another condition we have is like else if statement. So let's dive into the else if statement. So we use an else if when you want to check more than one condition. So if you are checking more than one condition, you can use an else if. So we have an if statement, we have an else if statement, we have another else if statement, we have another else if statement because you are checking multiple conditions before you now finally now have your else statement to check if all those conditions they have listed are all false, they will now have the else statement to print that particular um, write up you have done. So we use else elf when you want to check more than one condition. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have an int score. We have an int score was equals to 75. This is the score of a particular student. First of all, we now use oh, shit. First of all, we use an if statement first. So we have okay, so I'll explain what I did here. So we have a score for a particular student which is 75. That is the student score 75 in an exam. So on line 288, we use an if statement to check if that score is greater than or equals to 70. If it's greater than or equals to 70, to print out what is in line 290, which is you got an A. We now use an else if statement to check if that particular score is greater than or equals to 60. If it's greater than or equals to 60, to print out this statement inside 294, which is you got a B. We now have another else if statement to now check if this score is greater than or equals to 50. If it's greater than or equals to 50, to print this statement, you got a C. Then they will now have the final one, which is the else statement. If all these conditions are false, then to now print this last statement, which is you failed this exam. So what is the score of the student? The score of the student is 75. So we now check. We come on 288. Is 75 greater than 70? Yes. 75 greater than 70. If 75 greater than 70, you just come on 290 and print you got an A because of that condition. To first check that condition if it's true. If it's true, to print that statement. So you can see you got an A. So let's now put 60 here, or let's put 65. So if the student scores 65 in a biology exam, so now come on 288 to check if this score is greater than or equals to 70. So you can see it's not greater than or equals to 70. So to skip this condition, to go to the next condition using an else if statement. So now check if this score is it greater than or equals to 60. Yes, 65 is greater than or equals to 60. So to come here and print, you got a B. So let's go. Let's run the application. So you see that this particular student got a B in this biological exam using an else if statement. So you can see you got a B. So let's go to the next one. Let me now change this thing to 55. So let's go. If the student score 55 in biological exam, to check 288, it's if is the score greater than 70? No. Is it equal to 70? No. We check 292. If the score greater than 60? No. Is it equal to 60? No. So now come here and check 296. Is the score greater than 50? Yes. Is it equals to 50? No, but it's greater than 50. Since it's greater than 50, you now run this. Once you run this, you now tell the to now print you got a C, because you have checked this first condition, it is false. You check the second condition, it is false. You now check the third condition, that's why you now found out that this student is in this particular condition. So you now check, you got a C. Let's now do the final and say 230. I mean, sorry, 30. So the score of this student is 30 over 100. To come on 288, is this score greater than or equal to 70? No. Come on 292, is this score greater than or equal to 60? No. What is happening? So now come on 296, is this score greater than or equal to 50? No. After you have checked all these conditions, they are all false. So what we now do, we now use an else statement to now print this particular result. You fail this exam because all these conditions were not met. So if all these conditions were not met, the student must fall in, whether I like it or not, it must fall into this statement. You fail this exam. If I run this application, it will now go into this else block that this student failed this exam. So this is a typical example of using an if statement, an else statement, and an else if statement. So as you see, to show you you failed this exam. So I believe you must have understand how to use this statement in doing your condition when you're writing your project, using an if statement, an else statement, and also using an else if statement. So there's another last one we need to talk about. So this is a nested if. Let me close this. Oh, sorry. Let me uncomment it. So the next one we are going to be looking at is a nested if. So a nested if, let me write it down. Nested if. What this typically means is if statement inside an if statement. So we have if inside if. That's what this mean. Nested if. You are doing an if statement inside another if statement. So let's go for it. Let's go. Let's do some calculation. Let's do some code. So a code. So we have int age is equals to 20. We have bool as id is equals to true. So we have two, we have set out two, we have assigned like two statements here. So we have declared like two statements here. So the first statement is integer age is equals to 20. Then the second one is bool as id is equals to true. So bool as id is equals to true. So let's go using an if statement and a nested if statement. Like I said, nested if is like having an if statement inside another if statement. So we have like if age is greater than or equals to 18. Let's put our curly braces. Please don't forget this curly braces, it's very important so that I can print after checking the condition. So we have this curly braces open and close. So this is the first condition if age is greater than or equals to 18. So we now have a nested if that is using an if statement inside another if statement. So we now have if as id is equals to what? True. So this must be true. So we have another if statement. So I'm doing like a nested if. So I'm having like if statement inside another if statement. So we have done the first if statement, which is age is greater than or equals to 18. So we now have the second if statement that is inside this if statement starting from 309, which is if in brackets as id is equals to what? True. Then what will now happen? Don't forget your curly braces, CW, console.writeLine. You are allowed to enter. Okay, so on what I did here in using an nested if is to what? I have a student age which is 20, and also I declare a boolean as ID is equals to true. So on line 309, the age you enter must be greater than or equals to 80 before you're allowed to enter. And not only that, before you're allowed to enter, your ID, you must have an ID which is true before you are allowed to enter. So before you're allowed to enter, your ID, you must have an ID before you're allowed to enter. Even though your age is greater than 18, you must have an ID, even though you're not allowed to enter into this program. So in the first check on 307, its age is equals to 20. So first, it's a first check on 309 if age is greater than or equals to 18. Yes. So now come on 311. Does this person have an ID? Yes. So you are allowed to enter. So if I run this application, it will show me that this particular student is allowed to enter this program. But if I say here that is false, so this is telling me that this student does not have an ID. So even though your age is correct, your age is greater than 18, since your ID is false, you are not allowed to enter this program. First of all, it will not even print anything because it did not do an else statement to print um, anything you want to do. But since it did not declare an else statement to just exit the application, they'll chase you away that you're not allowed to enter this program. That is all. Or they will not even talk to you, self. They will just check your card. They will just check you if you're a student, yes, you just check your age. Okay, you're greater than 18. Okay. So now check, this person doesn't have an ID, they just throw it away. They will not even talk to you. That's how the computer work. They will not talk to you, they will not tell anything, but they don't allow you to enter because you're not allowed to enter. But if your age is greater than 18 and you have an ID of true, then you're allowed to enter. So this is all four statements that we have discussed. Okay, so let's do a recap. So the first one I did was an if statement. All right. If statement check one condition. Here's a recap. Then the second one I did is an else statement. An else. So this else statement check another condition if the first is false. You can say check another condition if the first is false, or choose between two outcomes. Then the next one I discuss is what? An else if statement. What does this one do? This one check multiple condition. Then the last one I discuss here is nested if. This one check a condition inside another condition. That is checking a condition inside another condition. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for hope you enjoyed your class. Hope you're able to understand how these statements work, how the if statement works, how the else statement works, how the else if statement works, and also how the nested if statements. Thank you so much for staying this long. See you in the next video, and make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share my videos, and also make sure you comment. If you have any issues regarding the course, my classes I've discussed previously, please reach out to me on the comment section, and I'll be glad to help you out. See you in the next one. Bye. It's